Everyone talks about these companies. We talk with them. Welcome to Insider Talks, the show where we interview China-based professionals on hot and thought-provoking topics.
Hello everyone, I'm Matthew David, founding partner of Dasher Consulting, and today we are recording a Market Insider talk. And I'm very excited today because we have someone from Google China, and that's a market we looked at, the market of what we call outbound advertising. So joining me today is Joanna Guo. You are Senior Marketing Solution Manager at Google China, and a lot of people who are listening to us maybe are asking themselves, but what is China doing? What is Google so doing in China when it's blocked, like Facebook, like Twitter, like so many of other services? And they do what we call outbound advertising. So it's very specific to China, outbound advertising, meaning that you do advertising in a country where you are not. You might have your headquarters in China, but you're actually selling to the US, to Europe. And we have looked at this market a little bit before at Dasher Consulting, and that's a market we estimated at 12 to 15 billion USD spending on platforms, big player being Facebook. It's about 10% of the revenues, about 5 billion USD they do in China. So Chinese companies paying RMB for advertisement overseas. And then you have Google, you have also a player like Twitter, and you have over the last 5 or 6 years, a new player, which is Amazon. Half of the people selling, the companies selling on Amazon are Chinese, with all those services that Amazon is offering, FBA and so on. There is also advertising. And that has been a large part of their revenues recently. I think it's about 5 billion a quarter. And with the pandemic, it has accelerated. So it's about, for Amazon, about 20 billion of spending of advertisement. And certainly a size of it is from China. So we're talking about a market which is very trusted by a few players. Google is one of them, to do outbound advertising. Google is big. Google has a lot of services. He has search, he has display, remarketing, Google Shopping, and that's something I will ask you a lot of questions on, but also YouTube, Google Store. We sometimes forget, but there is Android and Google Store. We do advertising on it, and gaming is a big thing in China. Chinese companies are very good at games. And we have the Drive, all those services like emails and so on from Google. I spoke a lot, but I wanted to set up a bit of the where we are, the market, and because people don't know about this market, Chinese companies are going overseas, and they need those platforms like Google. Thank you very much for being with us. Anything you'd like to say on top of what I've just said, or correct me? Maybe I was wrong on some aspects.
No, yeah. Thank you, Matthew, and good morning to, I guess, everyone. And this is Joanna, and I'm really happy to be here at Dasher Consulting to share a little bit about what Google China is doing and what Google Advertising is doing and what we are basically daily doing to help with these small and medium business brand to go global. Actually, yeah, what Matthew has introduced about, it's all correct. These outbounding export services, we are actually staying in China to provide this kind of advertising support, even though Google search is officially banned and exited China. Actually, to the public, it seemed that we were long gone. But actually, the headquarters in Greater China is in Hong Kong, and we have offices based in Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, of course. And now the employees at Shanghai is around 800 people. So the total employees in China is actually 1,000, and it's been increasing rapidly, especially these 2 years. So in Shanghai, we're actually based in the Huanqiu, the global financial center. So it's on the very top of the building, and we have around like and we're opening 2 more floors here in the office. Just want to share a little bit. So this is the meeting room in Google. So can share a little bit. You can see a very interesting design of the room. It's actually fans, a very Chinese elements. And if you have the chance to visit China, Google China office, then you can see every meeting room is designed differently with different Chinese elements. More to say, we have gym rooms, we have sleeping pods, we have everything. We're supposed to have in Mountain Views, and we also have this fancy cafeteria. So I really hope that you guys have the chance to visit. So yeah, we are in China all the time, and we are expanding just because of this exporting, outbounding business are growing very tremendously, especially in these 2 years. And actually Facebook and Amazon, they also have their own team here based in China, mainland China, or also Hong Kong as well, to serve these small and medium businesses as well. So yeah, I guess those are what I wanted to add on. I'm happy to chat more about it.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting sector. Reason being is that indeed that's at a crossroad of different dynamics. First, going digital. Secondly, Chinese companies going overseas, and Chinese companies doing D2C, direct to consumer. And at Dasha Consulting, we wrote a report called Brand Independence, how to become independent from Tmall, how to become independent from Amazon, because that's also what you help to sell on your own Shopify website, or to sell on your own Magento website, and so on and so on. I like to understand better what are the tools that Chinese companies are using to go overseas. Google has different services. Most people know the search. So most of the when people search on Google, you have a banner on the top, on the right, maybe less on the right now, but on the top, at the bottom, and it's ads. And in between is organic search, and it's paid search. You have this. Then you have the display. So display is when you go on the website and you have a banner managed by Google Ads at display. You have remarketing, which is to retarget people when they go on other platforms. You have then the services of Google, like Drive, emails, and you have YouTube, and finally Google Store Android. Am I missing something here?
No, you covered definitely a lot of what we offer, but I would kind of add on to that a little bit, because a big chunk of things Google did is data. So we are a big data company, right? We have around 7, I think 8 now, 8 platforms, including what you've just said, like Google Play, email, Gmail, YouTube, and Android, and so 8 platforms. Each platforms would have more than 1 billion active users. So we actually, as Google, we have the data around different platforms, and we know every consumer, what they're doing across the 10 platforms, and what their interests are, and what their searching behaviors are. So besides offering the advertisement place for these business to go abroad, we actually hold in hands with our business from beginning of their going overseas to developing their business to expanding their businesses. So before they start their business, say Matthew, if you're selling I don't know, cosmetics to USA, you don't know about USA. A lot of Chinese business, they don't know, because the consumers are very different from domestic markets, and they don't know about their interests. They don't know what they're searching for, where they buy cosmetics, whether it's through Amazon, whether it's through the social platforms, or whatever. So we kind of provide these data to help the business to identify key markets and key trend and key consumers to target on, based on what categories they have or what advantages they have, and also help them to plan out what countries to focus on, and then what countries to expand later after. So that's beginning of their journey. And then during the journey, they of course spend a lot of time to market themselves, to advertise their products. Here, I would say, yeah, so echo to Matthew, we really have a lot of products. We have different kinds of advertisements. You can post words that's search. You can post pictures that's display advertisements, and you can use videos, right? And you can also use KOL to help you promote your product. How are you going to plan on different resources to assign different weights to these media types, right? So we kind of help you to identify different key metrics like CPC or like impression shares on different platforms, so you can more strategically plan your budget on. And also we kind of help you to measure your goals after you did your advertisements, because we have Google Analytics. We have a lot of data platforms that will help you see these data and see your consumer informations. So we help you to analyze these data and to optimize your strategy. And when you want to further expand your business to maybe some emerging markets, or maybe to optimize your logistics or payment services, Google also have a bunch of consultants. We have a consulting team based in different local markets around the world. So people will help you to do the localizations, not just to translate your campaign, translate your websites, but also would kind of provide some logistics solutions for you to help you build a offshore, maybe in an offshore warehouses even. So those are also services that Google can provide. So basically it's like a handhold throughout the journey.
Thank you very much for adding that data is key at the start, at the very start. Does it mean that actually you invoice for this service of providing data and consulting? Because we are using as a company Google. We pay Google both on search and display, and we get sometimes on the phone a consultant from, I think, in Ireland, to be honest. So we have to make sure the time zone is correct. But they provide this consulting for free on how to adapt your campaign and so on. But here I feel it's a little bit different. It goes further here.
Yeah, so we definitely at the beginning of my job, what I did is I provide a lot of consulting services to my clients about how they should better optimize their campaigns. But throughout the process, we also believe that campaign isn't only, or marketing or advertising isn't the only solution to help them grow their business. We believe that there are a lot of elements that will kind of become the bottleneck for their businesses to grow. So depends on what stages they have, we kind of pull out resources to help them. That's what we want to do, because we want to see a more healthy ecosystem for these businesses. So we are even helping to grow the talents in the market, because we see in Chinese, we are really short of talents who understand the global markets and who can do advertising for this business. So we kind of have those projects to partner with some talent companies in the China market to grow the talents, and then help them bridge them into those businesses that in need of these talents. So yeah.
I see. Just a few words. You use CPC for people who don't know, is cost per click. CPM is cost per million. So per 1,000 views, usually the views and not the clicks. So everyone is on the same line. You mentioned the warehousing, by the way. The warehousing it's one of the value proposition which was missing from Google like 3 years ago, but 3 years ago. Since 2018. Google invested in JD.com. And as my understanding at that time, in 2018, it was a way for Google to add up warehousing to Google Shopping, and actually to some way have an offer which is try to correlate and be at the same page with FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, and the warehousing. Am I mistaken here? Is it correct that you this investment in JD was about warehousing and providing those warehousing system?
I think we kind of formed a partnership with JD so that we can offer a more affordable logistic offerings, solutions for our clients.
So Google invested 550 million USD at that time. It was 3 years ago, something like this, 2018. So you not only help Chinese companies going overseas, you invest also in China. That's another part actually of your activities of Google in China, is to invest in Chinese companies. And I feel that very often there is this idea of going overseas, like with JD.com, to support some logistics services. Um, what do Chinese companies prefer in terms of services you provide in terms of search, display, YouTube? You mentioned KOL, by the way. I was surprised you mentioned KOL because this is not a product offered by Google in itself, but that's within the ecosystem. I'm asking the question because I feel selling overseas is very, very different from selling to China. In China, most players will go through Tmall, JD, marketplaces, and maybe a bit of WeChat now. And then we think a lot about video with Douyin, for instance. So when they go overseas, what do they think of? Most Chinese companies don't have a website to go overseas. They maybe think about videos and KOL because that's what's working in China. How do they react?
Yeah. So before I answer your question, I want to say there are huge differences between Chinese market and the global markets, right? So in China, it's basically two big, huge platforms dominates the market. It's like 80% or 90% of the traffic sources from these big platforms. But in US, for example, Amazon only it's only about 40% of the market share of the traffic sources. So around like more than half of the people still shop in those branded .com, right? The .com websites or on those social platforms. So that's why this makes the market so different. And if now, if say today, if a Chinese business thinking about going global, they will have to think about whether I want to launch my product on Amazon, this platform, or whether I wanted to build my own websites. So now these days, with Shopify or these kind of website building companies thriving, they make building their own websites easier and easier processes. So more and more people would think about building their own brand websites because the advantages are very obvious. You have the data, you have the first-hand data. I mean, consumer data, right? Those are really valuable things, especially if you wanted to do the operations, a lot of advertising directly to the consumers, and you wanted to accumulate these valuable resources. That's a very good way to start your business. That's why I think Google and Facebook's revenue are also booming, especially after coronaviruses, and also a lot of big sellers on Amazon. They're trying to set up their own websites as well. So that's very different, right? Yeah. So I guess then there are a lot of opportunities. I think we can still seize in this outbound business. So think about 10 years before, we still, when the traffic costs are still low, right? The CPCs are still low. So those are the, I think the outbound business is started by a few overseas students when they're coming back to China and they think, oh, things selling at China, for example, one clothes is only 20 renminbi, but then you can sell 20 bucks in US. So you can still arbitrage from this price differences. So they started this business, and then after I think like after 2 or 3 years, Amazon boomed. So it's the platform. I mean I don't know how to put this in English, but Hongli is like kind of opportunities on this platform. So people started to flooded into the platform. And then after that was Facebook, right? It's like the social platform is coming booming. So people doing it's easier for them to do businesses and to do social marketings, and then after that is it's a DTC. It's like setting your own websites. So this is the opportunities we're kind of seeing now, and maybe in the future we'll see KOLs, we'll see videos will be booming because of TikTok going global. So I think Google is also very proactively kind of trying to innovate the YouTube the product offerings, and how does that catch the trend of this market booming. And also we're partnering with some KOL companies as well to help our clients looking for KOL resources or the KOL solutions for this business as well. So I guess I kind of looked back a little bit to see how the market is formed and how the market become what it is today, and some of the opportunities we're looking at. So that is why we did so many things to wanted to seize these opportunities as well.
I see. So what you are saying is that Chinese companies getting more and more interested in advertising outside of Amazon, basically, and having their own website to what we call D2C, direct to consumers, or what we call actually at Dasher brand independence from those big platforms for consumer data first. But one argument which is big is a margin, because Amazon is taking 15% on your sales, plus the money you need to spend on advertising, plus FBA, and you can go up to what, 30, 40% of your price to give to Amazon. If it's a big product, it's expensive to send with FBA. You have to rent the warehousing through them, because otherwise you don't rank well on the platform. So the brand independence is also a financial constraint, right? Do you feel that some clients are coming to you to say, hey, our margin is taken by those players, those marketplaces, and we want to take out of it to gain more independence and to get the data, like the email of people, the address of people, so we can resell, because acquiring clients is expensive. So you want to be able to resell by yourself. Is it also financial?
Yes, definitely. That's very valid, and we heard a lot of comments on that. And also because I think Amazon it's becoming more and more competitive places, so the price becomes higher, and also Amazon is trying to incubate their own brands, right? So sometimes these brands have to compete with their own brands as well. So that's making them, a lot of our businesses are not happy about it. So building their own brand would be a long-term strategy for them.
I see. You just said that COVID impacted positively your business. In what sense do you feel that the Chinese companies were already ready to go overseas? My intuition is that before COVID, they were not entirely ready to go overseas by themselves with their own brand, with their own website, and so on. So how do you feel about the difference? What did they do? Did they recruit people to do that internally? Did they go on Shopify to do it? Did they work with an agency? Or did they, by the way, did they use Google Shopping? Because you have a solution to sell directly. So the search, for instance.
Yes. So I think from the market's perspective, before so the Chinese market is very is boasted of its own supply chain. It has a strong supply chain. Basically, you can build everything and you can manufacture a lot of things very quickly, right? And also our factories have been upgraded a lot. They can not only follow the prototype, but they also can innovate. Some of the factories are having this ability to innovate something. So I think that's the advantage why China is the right place to start a DTC model to go to the world, and this advantage become to show during COVID-19, because not to say how quick China recovered from the coronavirus period, right? But also the factory in this period, I can see the resilience and I can see how adaptable they are. They become to sell healthcare products, and then later after sell a lot of things that related to these kind of products, and through these phenomenals, what I can see is how quick they can adapt to the world change. So that's the from the China's market. And from the US market, so the online so people going on, so the internet, how do I say, people using internet to buy something, the rate is becoming higher, right? More and more people are buying on internet because they cannot go out. They have to stay at home. And then also because they think about so the US, so all the global users, they think about brand very seriously. When they first go online, they wanted to get trustworthy brand or trustworthy products. That's why making brand such an important thing during COVID-19. And we also notified and we also recognize this trend that when those businesses have their bigger brand, or they have more stable investment before, because for example, they have a stable logistics, stable warehouses, or stable customer services, they grow exponentially. But on the other hand, other companies that didn't invest beforehand on these building good customer services, or these good products, they kind of got wiped out in this game. So it's like so many business will have to strive up to building their own good product and good customer services, and then lead through the brand journey. So they see this a way out, and this is the market trend we are seeing now.
Interesting. So you
I
said,
don't know if that answered your question. I kind of
yeah,
forgot what you answered.
yeah. The point was to say, when during COVID, were the Chinese companies ready to actually
Yes.
take advantage of going overseas? And what you said, they were ready because of supply chain and because they are
Yeah.
innovative. And I would add a few examples. In the makeup industry, you have Perfect Diary and Florazes, which are going overseas now and making it bigger. And they are known to be able to be very innovative in the makeup industry in China, and it feels they are doing the same with the West, and that correlates exactly what you say. The Chinese companies actually are able to adapt very well, very quickly, because supply chain is here, logistics is good. Factories can adapt very quickly because in the factories of the OEM, you have an office actually, which is in charge of innovative with the brands. And they were somewhere ready, maybe not entirely with a website and so on. And that has maybe taken a bit of time for them, but they were ready on the product, or they could be ready on the product very quickly.
Yes, and then for brand building, or for the building their own website, a lot of this business will partner with agencies. So agencies are very important, has very important roles in this ecosystems, right? So all the other infrastructures are very well built. For example, you have website building, Shopify, right? You have PayPal for your payments. You have logistics solutions, and then if you don't know the consumers that well, if you don't know how to advertise or how to interact with your users, that you can definitely rely on agencies. There are a lot of agencies that are the first partner with Google. So we're deeply partnering with our agencies. We enable the agencies. Actually, what I do here, a large part of my job is to enable these agencies to build up a more well-rounded portfolio, solution portfolios to serve their clients. And we Google actually will provide trainings, and we provide data, and we provide thought leadership to help enable these agencies to be able to better serve the market.
Interesting. So you go through agencies who have requests for the client. Maybe they worked with those agencies for China, and then one day the client is saying, "Oh, we are thinking about going overseas, or overseas business is growing actually, but now we need to make things seriously and independent, maybe from the big platforms." We talked a lot about Amazon, but AliExpress as well is not small for Chinese companies. So you have the different platforms, not only this one, not only Amazon, and they might think about being independent to gain a bit of margin, but also to build a brand. I like to know, what do you see in terms of products or services, maybe digital products that are sold by Chinese companies. My understanding is that Chinese companies are doing well in gaming now with apps. So I believe it's impacting your Google Play Store, and the
Yes.
advertisement spend. Of course, with products, more and more with brands, but that's still at the infancy. Still a lot to do. what do you feel as verticals and segments which are taking off specifically to go overseas?
Okay. So we look at the big verticals first. So first is app and non-app. So non-app is like B2C markets, right? Or B2C and B2B also. So app is still the biggest part in our revenue sources. So it's like 60 or to 70% are app, and others are B2C and B2B. B2C will be like around 20 to 30%, and then the rest will be B2B businesses. So in the app market, of course there will be further segments, right? So the gaming or the tools. So gamings and tools will be the biggest part to form the app businesses. So gaming is still the biggest. We of course we have different kind of gamings, RPG or the small leisure games or whatever. But that also depends on what kind of markets that you want entry, right? So if you leisure games nowadays are very popular, and especially in US, we are also enabling our games to monetize themselves through we have AdSense, all these products to help them open their place for advertisements. That's how they monetize. So we're trying to solve those problems, and then RPGs definitely would be driving for in-app purchases, and that's how they make money. But that really depends on how the what export markets that you want to enter and how the consumers are behaving. That's the app businesses. And for the non-app part, in the B2C part is is the big part of what we are working mostly for, because app businesses are very automatic. Right, so app will be, it's just if you do advertisement on app, then you just upload your assets, upload your words, then boom, the machine will go by themselves. That doesn't require a lot of talents or a lot of human work. But in the B2C markets, we have a lot of offerings, just like what I said, because it's more complicated, it's more human, it requires human work a lot. So B2C markets, we further divide into subcategories. Like the biggest part will be apparel and fashion. So it's like about 30 to 40% of the B2C market. And then it's the consumer electronics segments. It's been growing really fast, and China has has a good advantage in manufacturing these products. And coming after is the home and living thing. And this is also thanks to coronavirus. The home and living is growing really fast. And next is the cosmetics and beauty thing, especially some tech beauty products. We see it's been growing really fast as well. So those are the four main subcategories that we are looking for. We're looking at, especially for the D2C brands. We think it would be easier for these D2C brands to thrive if you focus on these four categories. That's for B2C. And B2B will be a very small part, but it's more like it's more around, you have to have the alliance with government, and the advertising format will be a lot easier. So that's not at least it's not my focus, but B2B part is also a very interesting and very interesting part to look at if you definitely have resources in this part.
Yeah,
So
clearly.
that's
B2B actually could use your services for display, for influencing
yes.
on
And leads
yeah,
gen and so on. Yeah.
yeah, interesting. Very
But because of the coronaviruses and the political issues, like I think it's also facing challenges. So
I see.
have to be careful about choosing
I
to
see.
enter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, we talked about a bit of geographies, Southeast Asia, the US, Europe. I feel there is mixed feelings about where Chinese companies go first or should invest most. The US is a very big market. Actually, available income is high, comparatively speaking, to the other countries. And it's a unified market, one language. Europe it's a big market. You have disposable income too, but it's a very fragmented market with a lot of languages, regulations, and so on. Very difficult to approach. And then you have Southeast Asia. It's closest. So there are a lot of Chinese diaspora. Also it's fast growing. And they might actually be willing to buy more non-branded products or with new brand and so on. So how do you see the different opportunities for Chinese companies with those different geographies or different ways of selling?
Okay. So when looking at what markets to entry, I think you have to look at from the market perspective, but also you have to look at the business DNA itself. So from the market perspective, of course, we can provide you a lot of trends. For example, what is the search, a heated search in the US, and what if you're selling beauties and cosmetics, maybe you can start by trying Shopee or Lazada in the SEA market. That's how the market shape and what channels you want to choose, right? Whether now you want to build a website, the .com website, or you just want to try on the platforms. So that's also very highly dependent, because different markets will have different segmentations, and that's from the market perspective. But I would say US and Europe would be much similar. They have higher internet penetration rate, and they're more stable in terms of payment or logistics. But in SEA or some new emerging market, probably you will meet a lot of challenges for the local. Logistics would be complicated, and the payment would be very, how should I say? It's not so that trustworthy. So those would be some challenges that you will be facing. So that's the market side. But also, I would encourage people to think from their own business perspective. So, for example, how much capitals you can afford to lose, let's say, right? Or how much, or whether you're VC backed, or whether you have a strong brand, or whether you have the talents, even though very because you need very localized products. It's the best if you can understand the local markets, or have the local languages, or have the local resources. Those are the key things that you will have to look at. And also, I would say, thinking from your own perspective, you can think about your plan, like where is the first stop, and how you want to expand from this first stop. For example, if you start from Shopee or from Lazada in the SEA market, then probably it's hard for you to build up brand or expand your brand to some developed countries. But if you are starting from a developed countries, then probably it's easier for you to build up your own presence in the less developed countries as well. So that's, I mean, from the market perspective, and then from your own perspective, you have to think it through.
It's very, very interesting. I didn't think about that, but the logistics is actually more, I would say, mature between China and Europe, and China and the US, than China and Southeast Asia, even if it's closer. And secondly, to build a brand first in the, I would say, more developed countries like Europe and US could help you actually to come with a stronger brand afterward. We say the same for Chinese companies. When you enter China, start with, for foreign companies, sorry, when you enter China, start with Shanghai or Beijing with maybe a shop or a presence, and then you would expand to second tier, third tier cities, because it is establishing the brand too. And actually, in some way, that's the same thinking here. It's good advice here. How do you think Chinese companies are managing their advertisement budget when they are already offices overseas? So the Xiaomi, the Huawei, the Haier, they already have overseas. They already have offices overseas. Do they actually decide to spend on advertising from China, or it's more from different countries? How does it work? What's the typical process of a Chinese companies, or it's both offices? And here we are talking about more mature companies.
For those companies, because I saw a lot of companies that they both have headquarters in China market, and also they have offices and overseas, and also a lot of this kind of brand, they started from from domestic markets, right? So when they consider investing in global market, they mostly will have to form another team, a very standalone team, because some of the ways that you did business in the domestic market will be very different in a global market, and also it takes time for you to try out your ideas or your teams or simply your products in the global market. So it really depends on how the CEO look at the global market, whether it's an all-in or whether it's just a test of water. So if you think about all-in, then probably you need to prepare for some of the back and forth, and that wouldn't impact your domestic plan and also the domestic let's say profit or ROIs. Maybe it's not the right time to have the same ask to the global team. So I think that's the kind of global that's kind of the organizational thing that I think the companies should look at when they think about going global. If they started to have their local offices around the global, I would what I saw from a lot of cases would be the global offices would be taking care of interacting with the local users or managing the KOLs, or it's simply another partners or another business track for this businesses. So I would say, but still the deciding power will belongs to the main company in their domestic market.
I see. I'm asking.
I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I'm asking that because I feel actually you work within China for Google is bigger than actually the money you collect in China, because some of those companies have offices overseas and they certainly spend also locally, but influenced by you towards the discussion you could have with the headquarters, to have your training here and educate them. So actually, the pipe, the size of the market is certainly bigger than the actual renminbi that is invoiced from China on those platforms. That was a thinking I had when preparing the interview. We talked about those bigger companies which have offices overseas. So Xiaomi, Huawei, those are the big ones. But you have also a brand like iCycle, for instance, clothes, apparel, which has a shop, I think, in Paris and being overseas for some time. You have Boston, right? Boston in Chinese, Boston, right? Is doing a lot of advertising in China and is present in 70 countries. So now we see Chinese brands being seen as trustworthy, good brands you want to buy, not because you buy because you have financial constraints, like it could have been 10 years ago. How do you feel the perception is evolving of Chinese brands going overseas, and how does it evolve in different regions of the world? So you have Europe, you have the US, you have Southeast Asia, maybe Africa. Is there something going on with Africa, by the way? We never talk about Africa as actually a market for Chinese companies. It's also very fragmented. It's not easy. What's your perception?
Yeah, so first of all, Africa, it's a very emerging market for a lot of app companies, like gaming or some video, especially. But also for B2C, I think it's also a very challenging market to enter because it's very fragmented, just like you said, and a lot of infrastructures are not very built up. But the mobile penetration rate was very high. So if you're looking at some mobile solutions, then that might be a good interesting or hardware, that might be a very interesting market as well. And then back to the question, so Chinese brand, the perception on Chinese brand, I think there's still a long way to go, honestly speaking. Okay. We've been doing a lot of surveys year on year on how people are looking at Chinese brand and how their mindsets changing. I would say there are some positive changes, but it still needs time, because I have to say, too many Chinese businesses going global, they're still too much focused on profit themselves, not on rather than on the products or the consumer experiences. So that's the thing I think we need to improve the market, and we need to continue to educate the market to do. Because well, sometimes we need to survive. Then the business will think about quick money, but that really takes some time to change their mindset and change how they do in the market. That's one thing. And another thing is we do see a lot of good products and good talents doing the businesses, but we're lacking the ability of telling story, telling the storytelling the brand.
Interesting.
I mean, that's something we see. For example, US brands, they're really good at. So a lot of DTC brands in the United States, they started by American people, but actually they get products from China. But why they can build up a brand that can make some social noise? That's because they tell a good story. That's something I can see a lot of, because I've worked with many domestic brands. When they go abroad, we work with them. We see even they have a brand presence in China, they don't exactly know how to tell the brand story to the world, to the consumers. And that's what I think would be a long way to go, and we still need to keep working on it.
Interesting. So the products, of course, the products are good in China because most products in the world are made in China. So the branded products are made here, but the Chinese brands still lack of ability to talk about their product and to actually do the branding overseas. And I believe they insist maybe too much on the price instead of insisting more on the value they bring. That's one of the challenges. Is there any segment you feel that Chinese companies it's more difficult for Chinese companies to go overseas, and that's the opposite? Some it's easier. Gaming you say is big. In some way we could think that it's more difficult because you share a lot of data, that your privacy and so on, but maybe people are not really aware in the West that where it comes from as an app. On the opposite, devices like phone and so on are clearly branded as Chinese, like Xiaomi and Huawei. What sectors do you feel are more difficult, and what sectors are actually much easier to develop a Chinese brand overseas? That's a hard question.
Well, that's a hard question. It's not. I think whether it's easy or not, it's really not depends on what categories that you're in, because you see brands, because you would never imagine an apparel company would set its own brand, right? Shein is a newly brand that coming from China, and you never know that even apparel itself can finally build up to a brand. So I don't think it's a main challenges for all the categories. It's just how this business think about long term. I think the long term mindset will be have to build into the company's DNA, and I mean to the CEO itself. It's very important.
I see.
Yeah.
I
So
see. Like
that's my own perspective.
Yeah, like you start a business in China, you think you need to think long term. It's expensive to start a business now in China, to develop it, and you think long term. Certainly, similarly, when you go overseas, you need to think long term. Would you have some case studies to share with us to illustrate those Chinese companies going overseas that you have helped? Some specific campaign you have supported, some specific product.
Yeah, I would really love to share, but I kind of maybe we're not allowed to share the case in this public forum because that's some private.
Okay.
Yeah, thinking of some privacy of the clients. I'm sorry, and
even if not specific, not saying the brand, but story.
yeah, if not okay, that'll be fine. Yeah. So because the brand that I'm working with recently, they just went IPO'd. Yeah. So before they went IPO, I have to like really keep it closed. So that's a projector. brand in China, and they went abroad about 1 year ago. So it really took a long time for them to explore the way of going global and just like see how and those challenges and those back and forth stages. I kind of just shared with you because it's very different from the domestic market. So have to build a standalone team and recruit their own talents, and they kind of explore through Amazon, Facebook, Indiegogo, and then to building their own website. They kind of tried everything. But I think here a very important thing for them is to think about branding at a very early stages and think about going full funnel. That being said, now when there are YouTube, there are search or display or even shopping campaigns. I think Matthew, you mentioned a lot about shopping. So shopping is very popular because it's very effective. When you post your pictures, you can see right away, you can see ROIs. So a lot of businesses would love it, but you would see the bottleneck using this product, because if you don't have brand presence, if you don't invest in upper funnel traffic, then there won't be conversions in the end. So I think it's very important to convince this company, the projector company that I'm working with, to invest in upper funnel at the very beginning. And even when they have, even when they're short of investment at the early stages, they still partner with KOLs. They still spend money on making videos, making very good assets, so that we have the stories to talk about, so that we have some of the, we can build our own difference with other brands, with other competitors, and then the rest would be investing in the campaigns and analyzing, segmenting our consumers. So we helped them first analyze the consumer needs in the projector markets. At the beginning, it was to work with those business people that they need to be mobile. And then after COVID-19, we identified that people stay with their family together more often, and they kind of like to social more at home. So projectors become a very important mean for them. That's why we build up a lot of stories, a lot of assets, videos around these kind of scenarios to help them grow. And during COVID-19, their sales tripled, and that's kind of above the trend. So yeah, I guess that's a very interesting case, and I myself even learned a lot through the case.
Interesting. We are close to 1 hour, so to the end of the interview. And I see that someone else booked your room soon
Sorry,
after.
my room just booked, just booked for 1 hour, so someone is kicking me out now.
I know those constraints in big companies. So how do you reach out to you if there is anyone listening to us who is interested to go overseas or helping Chinese companies go overseas? How to reach out to you?
Sure. I think maybe you guys can post my WeChat QR code, so that anyone interested can feel free to scan me and we can have a chat.
Okay. Are you responsive on LinkedIn? If someone wants to add you on LinkedIn?
Yes, sure. Connect me on LinkedIn as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanna. I know you are busy now. Someone else wants to take your room. Thanks so much for the sharing. I'm sure it will be very helpful for anyone going overseas.
Thank you, Matthew.